In Berlin, a young hacker named Benjamin finds himself sitting alone in an interrogation room, having just walked into a hotel suite littered with corpses. He claims to have valuable intel on the cyber mafia, but he'll only speak to Hannah, the head of Europol's cyber division. Hannah agrees and prompts Benjamin to start from the very beginning, his childhood. Even as a child, Benjamin dreamed of doing something significant, but he always felt invisible to those around him. His father disappeared when he was born, just as his grandmother's father had vanished before her. Through her only memory of him was the gunfire that ended his life during the war. When Benjamin was 8, his mother took her own life, leaving his grandmother to raise him alone. Benjamin had a fascination with magic growing up, and as he got older, that evolved into a passion for computers and hacking, which he saw as a modern form of sorcery. He was incredibly gifted at it, and online he finally felt like he belonged, unlike in the real world, where he was nothing more than a ghost. His idol became MRX, a legendary hacker whose exploits Benjamin followed closely. Through MRX, he learned to game pharmacy systems by sending him Ritalin, and he absorbed the 3 golden rules of hacking. No system is secure, always aim for the impossible, and have fun, both online and offline. Unfortunately, Benjamin had no one to share this world with. He didn't go to college, had no friends, and worked a dead-end pizza delivery job. One evening, he delivered pizzas to a group of students studying together, and among them was Marie, the girl he had secretly adored since high school. She didn't recognize him. When there was a mix-up with the order, Marie defended him, but when Benjamin tried to thank her with a superhero reference, she just found it awkward. Embarrassed, he left quickly. However, before exiting, he overheard Marie wishing out loud for the exam answers. Seeing an opportunity to impress her, Benjamin decided to hack into the university server and steal them. His break-in was flawless, until a night guard caught him. With no prior offenses, he was sentenced to community service. While doing cleanup duty, he crossed paths with Max, a confident and charming guy who was intrigued by Benjamin's hacking story and invited him to a party. Benjamin showed up that evening and spotted Marie again, but kept his distance. Max eventually led him into a back office where he introduced him to his friends, Stefan, a software wizard, and Paul, a hardware genius. To prove his skills, Benjamin was challenged to perform a hack on the spot. He pulled it off instantly, killing power to the entire neighborhood from a single laptop. The stunt earned him a place in their group. The hacking stunt also catches the attention of the police, so Benjamin quickly restores the power before he and the others flee the scene. Especially since it turns out the house isn't Max's. They had just crashed a random party with the door open. As they rush out, they run into Marie, who recognizes Benjamin as the pizza delivery guy. She ends up getting pulled into the getaway by Max, but once they're in the clear, Marie realizes who Benjamin really is, the awkward kid from high school, and promptly leaves, though she admits the night was at least interesting. Later, when Max returns home, he discovers the front door ajar and his grandmother missing. Thankfully, he finds her wandering outside unharmed, but the incident makes it clear that her Alzheimer's has worsened. She now needs to be moved into a care home. A few days later, Max catches up with Benjamin again and reminds him of MRX's rules, suggesting that Benjamin should start enjoying life, not just hiding behind a screen. Max calls himself a social hacker. He believes people are the weakest part of any system and can be manipulated through clever deception. To prove his point, Max picks up a used donut box and an old receipt from a trash bin, then walks into a shop and convinces the employee that his box was delivered empty. Later, the group meets up in a parking lot, and together they steal a van which they drive to a nearby convention center where a major political conference is taking place. With fake IDs they created themselves, they sneak in, and Benjamin uses Max's advice about social engineering to gain access to the main laptop by pretending he's part of the event staff. Once he's in, they bolt back to the van, where they switch the conference's slideshow with a satirical Hitler video. The prank is a success, but it draws a crowd. Attendees notice the van and try to chase them down. They manage to get away unscathed, although the van gets totaled in the process. Back in the interrogation room, Hannah starts questioning the truth of Benjamin's tale. To prove he's not bluffing, Benjamin recites intimate details about her life, information he got through hacking, which leaves her speechless and more willing to listen. Following the prank, the group sets up their base at Benjamin's house, now that he's living alone. Their Hitler stunt goes viral online. Paul is uneasy about the attention, but Max craves it. He wants them to become as big as MRX. Since Max wears a clown mask in the videos, Benjamin suggests the name Clay for their crew, short for clowns laughing at you. From that point on, Clay escalates its antics. They pull off prank hacks like changing the visuals on the financial news broadcast or making lights on a pharmaceutical company's headquarters flash protest messages. They never take themselves too seriously, running on Ritalin-fueled all-nighters, and their wild campaigns soon earn them internet stardom and real-world news coverage. One afternoon, while restocking on groceries, the crew crosses paths with Marie again, but Benjamin can only muster a timid hello. Max, annoyed, steps in and demonstrates how to carry a conversation, toggling from suave to sour in an instant. His temper flares whenever MRX ignores Clay's exploits. Around this time, the German authorities invite Hanna to Berlin to collaborate with Agent Martin's cybersecurity unit. She suspects a string of recent government breaches were carried out by FR-13NDS, a vicious Russian cyber mafia group she's hunted for 3 years. Back on Clay's side, the boys hijack a radio giveaway, hacking their way to first prize, a Porsche. They flaunt it through the streets and even use it to scoop up a handful of party girls, steering everyone back to Benjamin's house for an evening of booze and dancing. Yet Benjamin can't shake thoughts of Marie. He jumps in the Porsche alone, tracks her to another party, and tries to channel Max's swagger, impressing her with the car, chatting about her exams, then planting a bold kiss. Marie recoils. That wasn't what she wanted. She walks away, and when Benjamin attempts to follow, one of her friends decks him and warns him to stay clear. Next morning, Clay receives a humiliating jab from MRX, a screenshot of Hanna's briefing papers ranking the group as harmless and insignificant. Max flies into a rage. He's desperate for big league approval. Benjamin proposes an audacious stunt: break into the headquarters of the BND, Germany's Federal Intelligence Service. They begin by tailing a garbage truck from the BND complex, then dumpster dive once it empties its load. Among the trash, they find a birthday card bearing a staffer's name. From that, they trace her email address. Using a classic phishing ploy, they send a link disguised as cute animal photos. When she clicks, they gain remote access to her workstation. It doesn't reach the core servers, but her role is perfect. She issues building access cards. With forged badges ready, Clay strolls through the front entrance. Paul cuts main power and disables alarms. Stefan wipes surveillance footage, and Benjamin uploads the real payload, lingering just long enough to add a personal twist. Minutes after they exit, every printer in the agency spews reams of paper emblazoned with a taunting Clay logo. That night, flushed with victory, the group hits a nightclub to celebrate, and once again bumps into Marie. Benjamin finally gathers enough courage to try again with Marie, only to freeze in place when he spots her kissing Max, crushed and furious. He storms home, heart in pieces. Not long after, Max appears at his window wanting to talk, but Benjamin slams the door on the idea, too wounded to even look at him. When he hurls insults, Max fires back that Benjamin is nothing without the group, then walks away. The accusation cuts deep. Determined to prove he's not just a tag-along, Benjamin reveals he secretly copied classified data from the BND server. In a reckless bid for recognition, he hands it over to MRX. The following day, Hanna visits the BND site to investigate the prank, only to be hit with devastating news. The undercover agent embedded in FR-13NDS has been found dead. It turns out the stolen BND data had included the agent's identity, now leaked, and MRX, a known FR-13NDS ally, likely handed it over. Between the breach, the murder, and the political embarrassment, Hanna's job is hanging by a thread. Meanwhile, Max, Paul, and Stefan show up at Benjamin's place. The reunion quickly turns into a shouting match when Benjamin accuses Max of manipulating everyone. Tension explodes until Paul forces them to cool down, just as the news hits. The murdered agent's identity had been exposed by the stolen files. Clay is now officially being labeled a terrorist group. Panic sets in. Stefan wants out. Max demands Benjamin turn himself in since he caused the mess. Paul refuses to throw any one of them under the bus. Trying to fix things, Benjamin suggests a plan. If they can catch MRX and deliver him, along with FR-13NDS, to the authorities, they might be able to erase their names and disappear. Their brainstorming gets interrupted by a knock on the door. It's Marie. worried because Benjamin has gone silent since last night. But he misreads her concern as pity. Bitter, he lashes out, accusing her of only showing up for Max and calling himself a fool for ever liking her. Marie leaves heartbroken. Determined to track down MRX, Clay decides to use a public connection to stay anonymous, so they head to the local library. But this exposes their location to Hana, whose team immediately closes in. Benjamin manages to get into MRX's private chat channel just in time and is welcomed as an official member of the Darknet. MRX even sends him a file with the next job. Benjamin downloads it right before Europol agents arrive in force. He narrowly avoids arrest by hiding under a desk as the team storms in. Hana's failure to catch Clay yet again, despite being so close, gets her suspended from the investigation. The mission MRX assigns to Clay is to upload a piece of malware disguised as legitimate data, a Trojan, into Europol's system. Clay agrees to do it, but with a hidden agenda. They embed a second, secret Trojan inside the first one. Their hope is that when MRX accesses Europol's system after the job, the second Trojan will expose his identity. While wiping their hard drives to erase any trace of their activities, Max takes a moment to apologize to Benjamin. He confesses he knows nothing about computers and that Benjamin has always been the true talent. With everything in motion, Clay heads to The Hague to scope out Europol's headquarters. But things don't go as planned. The building's trash is discarded in a secure facility, their phishing attempts fail, and every possible entry point, including the sewer system, is sealed. Max even injures his hand trying to explore one of the blocked routes. Just as they're about to give up, luck strikes. Benjamin notices someone drop their access card while leaving the building, and he snatches it. Knowing the risk of impersonating someone in a government facility, Benjamin decides to take the burden on himself. That night, while his friends sleep at the hotel, he sneaks out. At the entrance, Benjamin convinces the security guard he's just retrieving a lost wallet, claiming ownership of the stolen access card. The guard gives him 2 minutes to look around. Inside, Benjamin manages to discreetly plant a custom device Paul built, one that connects him to the BND network. The next morning, Benjamin connects with MRX via their private channel to deliver the Trojan. But MRX is one step ahead. He detects the trick and activates Benjamin's webcam, broadcasting his face across the darknet. Within moments, Russian gang members track him down and begin chasing him through the city. Benjamin only escapes by hiding deep inside the subway tunnels. But the worst news is yet to come. When he finally makes it back to the hotel, Benjamin discovers Max, Stefan, and Paul are dead. After picking up a shell casing as evidence, he calls the police and demands to speak to Hana. This brings us full circle to the beginning of the story, with Benjamin inside the interrogation room. All he wants now is to disappear, to become invisible again and stop living in fear. In exchange for everything he's revealed, he asks to be placed in the witness protection program. While Hana makes calls to see if she can get the deal approved, Benjamin reflects on one final, bittersweet memory, his last night with Marie. She thanked him for the exam answers, they shared a kiss, and he asked her to run away with him. As Hana waits for word from her superiors, Agent Martin expresses his doubt, warning her not to trust Benjamin because there are inconsistencies in his story. But Hana stands her ground, insisting Benjamin is the only one capable of helping them take down MRX and FRI-3NDS, who are the real threats here. Benjamin is given access to a computer so he can do what he does best, log into the darknet, posing as MRX. Pretending to be the real hacker, he posts a message admitting he's working with the authorities. The real MRX, desperate to defend his name, recklessly logs in using unsafe methods. And that's all Benjamin needs to expose him. It turns out MRX is just a 19-year-old American kid from New York who is immediately arrested by the FBI. Hana is thrilled with the result and tells Benjamin his new identity is on the way. But then she notices something odd, a wound on his hand that looks like it came from a nail. Combined with Martin's earlier comments about the inconsistencies in Benjamin's story, this sets off alarm bells. So Hana starts digging deeper. She begins at Benjamin's house, where she finds an empty box of Ritalin. Next, she visits Marie, who insists she hasn't seen Benjamin since he delivered her pizza and calls him unstable. Finally, Hana speaks with the doctor who cared for Benjamin's grandmother. He reveals that Benjamin grew up in strange, uncertain circumstances, and that his mother, who took her own life, suffered from dissociative identity disorder. It's a condition that can be passed down, and medication like Ritalin can make it worse. The final piece of the puzzle falls into place when forensic tests show that the bullets Benjamin brought from the supposed murder scene are actually old war memorabilia, souvenirs from his grandmother. No bodies were found at the hotel. Armed with all this, Hannah returns to Benjamin and gently tells him the truth. Max, Paul, and Stefan never existed. They were figments of his imagination, alter personalities he created to deal with his loneliness. Every hack he pulled off, he did completely on his own. Even the nail wound from the sewer, self-inflicted. Shaken and confused, Benjamin struggles to accept this. He fears he's inherited his mother's illness and begins to question his own identity. But Hannah has even worse news. People with serious mental disorders aren't eligible for the witness protection program. The weight of it all crushes Benjamin. Terrified of being targeted by FR-13 NDS and devastated by the truth about himself, he breaks down. Seeing his panic, Hannah decides to bend the rules. She gives him one last chance. On the way to court, she offers him access to a government computer and explains that the witness protection program is quite literally a program he can hack. If he can set himself up with a new identity and promises never to hack again, she'll let him go. Benjamin agrees. After legally disappearing from the system and dyeing his hair to alter his appearance, he boards a Scanlines ferry to leave the country. On board, he reunites with Marie, Max, Paul, and Stefan, revealing the final twist. He's not mentally ill after all. It was all a con. After narrowly escaping the Russian mob, Benjamin realized working with Clay would only continue to put them all in danger. But his friends refused to abandon him. Together, they devised one final, brilliant hack, socially engineering Hannah herself into giving Benjamin the protection he needed. Clay wins again, one last perfect trick. With Marie's legal knowledge, they discovered that people diagnosed with mental disorders aren't eligible for witness protection. So, they intentionally built flaws into Benjamin's story, creating inconsistencies on purpose. They even gave him a matching hand wound to mirror Max's and used bullets from his grandmother's old war box as one final detail to sell the illusion. Instead of entering a name into the witness protection program, Benjamin secretly erased all his data from the system and did the same for his friends. Now, all of them can begin new lives completely invisible. Back in Berlin, as Martin proudly holds a press conference celebrating the case's success, Hannah slowly realizes she's been played. But rather than getting angry, she can't help smiling to herself. Benjamin was right all along. The real criminals have been taken down, and thanks to that, she can finally return to her position.